We had a huge hip hop gig on, like a 12-hour festival, and it got to about 7 o'clock, the crew were getting rowdy and stuff, and I walked into the bar. There was some young guys graffitiing and tagging the wall inside the pub, and so I grabbed one of the young guys and said, mate, come, we'll get these guys and ask them to leave, it's just uncool. And when we were in the process of doing it, one of the young guys started getting bashed by the two guys who was asking to leave, so I kind of had hold of a quite large guy and then let go of him and grabbed the other guys to stop him from bashing on this young bartender. And then in all that, some other guys come over from behind, just hit me right in the back of the head, just knocked me out straight away. Hit the head on the concrete, had like massive hemorrhage on my brain. Started to have seizures right there, like on the floor, and seizures on the way to hospital. And then yeah, I think Amy and I were in intensive care there for like 14 hours or something like that before they moved me into a proper bed, and then I was in hospital for like 2 weeks. Out of hospital and went straight back to work, you know, way too early, and you know, people weren't asking, you know, are you okay? Because you know, you're not going to walk around with a bandage on your head. So I kind of, everyone just thought that I was okay, but like my whole demeanour had changed, you know, like I was getting really agitated really quick, and you know, at work getting really cranky at people really fast, and like kind of just snapping over the smallest things, and then feeling guilty because that I'd reacted or overreacted, and then not have to apologise, and it was just this merry-go-round. It was just, you know, and you know, like when I first came into hospital, I wasn't allowed to surf, and I wasn't allowed to drive a car because I, like, you know, if you keep having seizures, you know, you could drown the surf, or so it was just like bad news after bad news after bad news, you know. And so I think there was a lot more anger there than I actually realised. You know, I kind of thought, yeah, no, I'm sweet, you know, I can go back to work and yeah, I'm all good, you know. But I think there was more wounds there than I let on, and it took a long while. Like it took 12 months of kind of ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs, and before I started to think, hang on a minute, there's something wrong here, you know. And then, you know, I started to kind of just go within myself, you know, because I was like, I'd be at home and just start to get anxious about having to go to work, and I was starting to get depressed and just didn't know why. And then along with that, I was starting to develop really bad migraines, so that were just, you know, locking me up in bed for like 12 hours plus. Like, just, I could feel it coming on, and then I'd be done, you know, like just laying in bed, and like pills and that didn't help, you know. Like I'd just be rolling around in bed, just getting agitated and frustrated, just, you know, to the point where I start to vomit, and it's just like, oh, this is horrible, you know. And then the girl who's been my mentor for my art for all, you know, all this time before this happened, she'd flown down from Byron Bay. She's trying to encourage me to have a show at the time, and she'd come down to have a meeting with me, and I couldn't get out of bed because I was just like, this migraine, and it just was crook, you know. And she just said, look, this is bullshit, you know, I'm not having it. Rang a doctor that she knew of in Sydney, like quite a, you know, really well-known doctor to the stars kind of thing, and rang up, booked me in, went and saw him, and straight away I walked in and he just said, mate, this is, you know, this is what we're going to do. Started off, strip my diet right back to literally nothing. He said we're going to go back and start, you know, right back to the basics, and then we're going to work back from there and see how much better you get. Got a few tests done, and he kind of worked out that, you know, my brain wasn't producing enough serotonin, so I was just feeling shit all the time. So he encouraged me to get weekly. At that stage it was like twice a week, vitamin B injections, and they were kind of, you know, making me feel better, and it was giving me more positive outlet. And then my diet changed, and all these things that other people were so quick to go, yeah, you need to take pills, you need to get on depression tablets, anti-anxiety tablets, all these other tablets. And you know, this guy was just like, no, you don't need tablets, you know, like we can sort this out. And getting back into regular exercise and just by doing exercise in a certain way produces serotonin as well. So it's just all about, you know, maintaining that style of that lifestyle, you know. So it's been a complete lifestyle change for me, you know. Like I've had a few interviews where crew have gone, oh, you know, what do you think about when you're painting? And I kind of realised in doing this project, we're using time-lapse photography to capture the creation of the painting. And when people ask me questions, I'm actually in a completely different headspace. Like I get asked the basic questions and I'm like, I'm somewhere else. You know, I'm not sure where that is. You know, like I'd have a similar kind of thing when I'm surfing a wave, I suppose. You're kind of in a nothingness. Sometimes I get ideas when I'm laying in bed and I can't sleep, and I start painting in my head and manifesting this whole idea. Sometimes I get up and I'll quickly sketch it out, and then I, boom, just knock out, go straight to sleep. Sometimes I get up and paint. You know, with that last painting that I did here, like I spoke to you about, and I just had this image of what I wanted to do. It's my grounder, you know, like it's the only thing that I know that will always just level me out. You know, like it's like being out there, it's, you know, the smell of it, the feel of the water, like it's all those things. Like it's, you know, it's one of the most, you know, purest things I think, you know, you can do as a human. There's not many things where you can immerse yourself in nature in such a, you know, romantic and amazing way, you know. So for me, that's, you know, it's my recharger, you know. We have to be Salvador Dali, you know. Anyone that makes a point of waking up and sitting up in bed and the first thing that he says to himself out loud is, what amazing things will Salvador Dali do today, you know, like that's tops, you know. Yeah, so the whole thing came about, I had a show in Sydney just before the end of last year, and there was a lot of emphasis put on my attack and my road to recovery, and how art became, you know, such a big role in my recovery. I had a few big articles written, and one in particular in a Sydney paper. You know, it was a cover story, 3 pages, and I had complete strangers after that coming up in the street and going, oh mate, you know, I saw in the paper, and yeah, this is what happened to me, you know, and just talking about it. And then, you know, one of the guys in the art shop where I get my supplies coming up to me and goes, oh, you know, like, this is a guy I'd seen around all the time but never really had anything to do with, and just was kind of following me around the shop and cornered me in the back and just goes, oh, you know, like, I saw and read in what happened to you, and you know, and I've been carrying around this burden that's been, you know, giving me anxiety and depression for 20 years. I've never told anyone, not my wife. I read your story, went home, sat my wife down and told her why I behaved the way I behaved for the last 20 years after I read your story. And like, it just kind of light bulb went off. You know. From speaking to Chris, he said, well, you know, what would you like to do? And I said, well, I've got this idea of painting these pieces and using time-lapse photography to actually document the whole creation of the painting. So instead of watching me paint for 5 or 10 days, which is boring, you can watch a whole lot happen in, you know, 3 minutes. And then do that in a, you know, a really cool location, whether it be somewhere cool around Australia or overseas or wherever. And then get big bands involved, like the 14 biggest from Australia, and get them to donate a track to go along with the video, and then have a big show at the end and get the musicians to co-sign the piece that their music goes along with, and have a huge charity auction at the end, and, you know, get as much press and as much crew talking about it, and by doing that, you know, kick off what I want to do, and that's get everyone talking about it. Angus and Julius Stone, The Vines, Hilltop Hoods, Jet, Jimmy Barnes, Josh Pike, Paul Dempsey, the Drones, yeah, so there's a huge lineup, you know. It's I hooked up with Hurley through Adrian Bucky, I had actually mentioned to him what what I was doing, and he just loved it. He said, "Mate, that's unreal." And I said, "Well, you know, do you reckon it'd be something Hurley'd like to get involved in? You know, like on what level, you know, is negotiable?" And so he gave me the contact details of the boys in Oz, and went down, sat down with those guys, and they were just all over it. They just said, "Yeah, man, we'll just kind of throw you in as your personal sponsor." And then we're going to be doing some more stuff with those guys down the track with my art, which is you know, not related to what we're doing now. And those guys are going to be quite heavily involved in setting up the show and getting as much press out there as we can. And so, you know, those guys have been great. For starters, it was unreal. You know, those two guys are just gentlemen. You know, like they're guys that I've always looked at surfing, and you know, to go on a trip with those guys was amazing. They're both the salt of the earth. You know, super friendly. You know, easygoing, and just fantastic service. To watch in real life was amazing. You know, that just kind of came about. We're shooting a bit of a doco on this whole process, from the conception of the whole idea right through to the opening night of the show. So the boys wanted to get a little bit of footage of me surfing, and I just finished a signature series sunglass with carved sunglasses, and it was really cool, and it was something that was really hard work and foreign to me. So I think, you know, for the future, anyone that wants to get involved and do some sort of signature series with designs, I think, you know, if we could pump out shirts through any company that has a message as opposed to just, you know, a piece of computer generated art. I mean, I think nowadays, I think we're with everything, photography and art, and you know, we're losing out to computers and digital enhancement, and you know, I think there's still a niche there in all these huge companies for people that are doing stuff with their bare hands, you know. And so I think, you know, I think that for me, I look at it and think that there's a market for that kind of stuff, you know. And you know, if we sold, you know, 100,000 shirts and we gave 20 cents back to a charity, then you know, there's someone's buying something that may save somebody's life down the track, which, you know, I don't see enough of that going on in big corporations, and I think there's definitely room for it. You know, I think someone just has to be brave enough to step up and go, yeah, you know what, we're gonna do that. And yeah, I think it'd be really cool, and I think it'd be really well received in the industry, you know.
You late?
Yeah, it does, yeah. But you know, I'm in monogamous relationships. So